Hello and welcome. You're watching India Ascends. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. Let's get you the big stories that we are tracking in this show. First up, India and Taliban upgrade diplomatic ties. India all set to reopen its embassy in Kabul. The move allows India to gain strategic access to Iran and Central Asia, even as Pakistan loses leverage and gets checkmated in the region. From Zoho to rare earths, Make in India gets a major push as India's tech founders crack the code for Desi technology. Have Indian companies finally started giving tough competition to global tech giants? Donald Trump administration is planning to go beyond the initial shock of $100,000 of mandatory fee and impose additional immigration restrictions on how employers can use the permit of H-1B and who qualifies for it. No Nobel for Peace President Donald Trump. Peace Prize awarded to Venezuelan political leader Maria Corina Machado. After the Nobel snub, White House says the committee played politics as Donald Trump has a heart of a humanitarian. Our top story on the show this week, viewers. Make in India has had it's something that started with a huge bang 11 years ago. Along the way, it has met its fair set of criticism. But tonight we talk about how far it has actually come. There's been criticism about it being largely about assembling, restricted to a few sectors, not enabling and spurring innovation in R&D. Well, answer to all of that is coming from the likes of Zoho, a unicorn based in small-town India, taking on the biggest tech giants globally. Bootstrapped, not PE or VC funded, Zoho has been profitable, balancing the ultimate balance, profitability with sovereignty. The key aspect of its success, now can it take on global corporations with much deeper budgets in the long run? This report tells you why 11 years later, after its launch, Make in India has truly and finally arrived.
In Chennai, Tamil Nadu, a global tech revolution is brewing. India's Make in India mission has found a quiet tech company. India's Make in India mission has found a quiet tech champion, Zoho, building everything from code to culture in India. Its over 55 products include business software to Aratai, a made in India encrypted messaging app. Then there's Zoho Work Drive for cloud storage, Zoho Mail as an alternative to Gmail, and Zoho Click for workplace communication. All built directly by Indian engineers. His vision of a self-reliant India is paying off. Zoho now serves over 100 million users in 150 countries, all without foreign investors or VC funding. In a show of confidence, top ministers from Home Minister Amit Shah to IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav have shifted to Zoho products, replacing American giants like Google, WhatsApp, amongst others. Zoho isn't just another IT firm. It's positioning itself as the face of India's technological self-reliance. Instead of hiring foreign engineers, Vembu was training local youth, creating training programs in schools in rural areas, teaching them software development skills. Many of them were later hired to work at Zoho. But challenges remain. US firms like Microsoft and Salesforce still dominate global enterprise software. To turn its homegrown success into global dominance, Zoho's next frontier lies in deeper innovation and broader tech. From Aratai to AI, Zoho is proving that innovation doesn't have to come from Silicon Valley. It can come from a city in Tamil Nadu, powered by Indian minds made for the world. With Disha Bagchi, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
Well, viewers, for Make in India to truly work, you need access to rare earth minerals, something that India has now finally realized it needs to secure after China unofficially banned rare earth minerals. Now, from exploration to mining, there is a push to have indigenous technology and desi companies to develop a secure supply chain. And that, I think, is the other aspect of Make in India that can truly give it the kind of push that it needs. There is over a 7,000 crore rupee plan to ensure that rare earth magnets can be for India in a secured way. India is already the third largest rare earth reserve air country, and the National Critical Mineral Mission ensures that there is self-reliance for India going forward. And can it be the ultimate alternative to China is the larger question. And there has to be focus on building mining as well as refining capabilities. And in a world increasingly defined by resource competition, India's rare earth mission could well become the next frontier of its Make in India success story. Well, the other big story that we're tracking on the show, Donald Trump didn't win a Nobel Peace Prize. Well, he wasn't supposed to, viewers, simply because nominations for the same had closed even before his tenure started. But the way he campaigned, so did his office, his MAGA base. It almost seemed that heavens would fall if the peace president did not get the Peace Prize. And in fact, Donald Trump spoke about it just hours before the Nobel Peace Prize committee declared the winner. Listen in.
And I've stopped 8 wars, so that's never happened before. But they'll have to do what they do. Whatever they do is fine. I know this. I didn't do it for that. I did it because I saved a lot of lives.
Now, in his mind, it is the ultimate frontier that he wants to conquer and the validation that Donald Trump really seeks. But an American president that gets fixated by the prize that is seen as a left bastion is probably the reason why it's being coveted so much by the MAGA base. But viewers, for the sake of world peace, Donald Trump must get a Nobel. And I'll tell you why. Because the Peace Prize is now about quid pro quo. Take Ukrainian President Zelensky, who said if Donald Trump gives him Tomahawk missiles, then he will give him a Nobel Peace Prize recommendation. So essentially, help him start a World War III, and then there will be a Peace Prize recommendation. Russians haven't said so in that many words, but they would have similar expectations maybe. Now, the propensity to respond to quid pro quo is not unique to the US president, but for it to be so blatantly used and be so obvious is the key differentiator. And who knows who will be the next dangling carrot that will be presented in front of Donald Trump for that Nobel recommendation. Now, as far as MAGA Brigade is concerned, this is deception. So what if he invented a war between Egypt and Ethiopia that didn't exist? So what if he created and misspelled and spoke about Armenia and called it Albania? Now, it's not about how many wars he has ended, because in his mind he's ended 8, maybe 9, maybe even more wars, which is far from the case. Yes, he did end the Israel-Hamas war and finalize a peace formula for which he would be given credit. Recognition that will come only next year. But till then, brace yourself for more meltdown that will happen in Trumpland. Why do I say so? Well, White House has already said that Donald Trump has the heart of a humanitarian, and it was politics that ensured that he didn't get the ultimate Peace Prize. Four years after it suspended its ties with Taliban, India today reopened its embassy in Kabul, a move that signals a revival in diplomatic engagement between the two countries and comes at a time when Pakistan has completely lost its leverage in the region. Now, Pakistan, in the midst of this and ahead of that crucial meeting, did what it does best, which is it bombed parts of Afghanistan to ensure that those talks were derailed. That didn't happen. It's a separate matter that Pakistan is dealing with its own set of issues that are only rising, people on the streets being one. Now, India has been an aid partner, a humanitarian partner, and an infra partner for Afghanistan, all of which the Taliban government needs. The week-long visit of Afghan Taliban Foreign Minister Amir Muttaqi comes after Pakistan Army would not have even anticipated how quickly and how sharply their ties with Taliban completely crumbled. In fact, Afghan government is now not dependent on Pakistan, seeks legitimacy, blames Islamabad for the many terror attacks that are taking place on its base, and wants to have an independent foreign policy of its own, which is why New Delhi is so important. And as Pakistan loses its relevance, is checkmated, India will gain access to Iran, the Central Asian countries as well. It will focus on building deeper bridges to address its biggest concern, which still remains security threats. There are also significant mining opportunities that are up for grabs for Indian companies as New Delhi and Beijing jostle for contracts and presence in the region. As far as Pakistan is concerned, well, there's only one word: irrelevant. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer was in India with his largest business delegation ever. UK, as the world's sixth largest economy, signed a pact with India, which is the world's fourth largest economy. Together, they are looking to get trade of upwards of $120 billion in the next 5 years. How soon could that happen? Is that target ambitious? And what are the kind of opportunities it throws up globally is the big question that we asked to Richard Hale, who's the UK IBC chair, joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Richard, thanks so much for speaking to me. Let me start by asking you, sir, you've had quite a tour in the last couple of days. UK has been one of the countries that have witnessed one of the highest number of millionaires exiting. This is a pact that's very important, not just for India, but also for the UK as well. How do you see the trade pact throwing up opportunities for the two sides?
Well, I literally landed this morning from 36 hours, I think, on the ground in Mumbai. I think that it is actually very critical for the two sides, as you put it, to be talking, the two principals to be talking on a regular basis, and also to bringing to the table both businesses, but also their colleagues in government. And what was noticeable was both Prime Minister Modi, Minister Piyush Goyal, as well as Prime Minister Starmer and Secretary of State Peter Kyle came with significant teams in order to really engage. And UK brought the largest business delegation that it's ever brought to India in order to interact with a similarly large and prestigious group of Indian businesses. That sort of commitment on both sides is incredibly important in developing and deepening the strategic, long-term, sustainable economic relationship that we're all aiming for.
And how much will this Trump-proof India and UK, given the fact that you have US changing the rules of the game almost every day?
Well, I wouldn't describe it as Trump-proofing. What I think the focus is to actually develop stronger relations under the umbrella of the agreement that was inked in July between the two prime ministers in relation to a strategic vision into 2035, of which the most important element, obviously, is the comprehensive economic trade agreement. If you look at the breadth of the delegation that came in from the UK, it did include what one would characterize as kind of manufacturing, defense, but it also included a large number of young tech companies, UK companies, across the spectrum. It also included a large number of entertainment-focused and culturally focused entities. I met the lady who runs the Manchester Museum. I sat next to on the plane a gentleman who is developing hardware in telephony. I talked to somebody who was in the satellites sector from the UK as well, and also a surprisingly but encouragingly large group of universities. And there are 9 universities who are opening up or have permission to open in India, and that formed also part of the delegation. So it is, if you like, such a broad delegation of different sectors, yes, and different interests and different types of companies that were interacting in the course of the past 36, 48 hours, that it really is, I think, far broader than just a reaction to Trump. It's something that is absolutely strategic.
Of course, it will be much more than that. And I think universities will be a very key component of India-UK trade relationship. Quickly, sir, $120 billion trade target by 2030, modest? Or do you think this is the best that the two sides can do right now?
Look, that's I don't have a crystal ball. But what I would say is I'm really encouraged by the fact that the free trade agreement is a very flexible instrument. Yes, it is has targets in terms of reductions of tariffs in both for Indian goods going into the UK and UK goods going into India. But if you look beyond that, that is important in itself. But if you look beyond that, then it also is focusing on non-tariff barriers, on ease of doing business. It's looking at putting in provisions which allow the CETA to flex in relation to those technologies that may be under development at the moment, and or those technologies that we haven't even thought about, but will become front and foremost in the coming years. So it is a very flexible document. So yes, if you like, the numbers that you're talking about is in relation to what we know, but what we don't know is the really exciting and encouraging bit.
All right, let's leave it there, Mr. Richard. Thanks so much for speaking to me on India Sense. Well, Khalistani terror is something that has found roots across the world in several critical countries. And now India is stepping up against that, raising the issue with two very important countries, UK and Canada. This week, Prime Minister Modi raised the issue of Khalistani extremism during a meeting with his British counterpart, Keir Starmer, emphasized that radicalism and violent extremism have no place when it comes to democratic societies. But it's not just with the UK, with Canada as well. This is an issue that India has raised. Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand will be in India. K-terror will be a very crucial and a very important part of those discussions. India has upped the ante against terror. It has in fact made it very clear that countries that support, fund or help any of these Khalistani terror organizations in any way, India will call them out. And they can be anybody. Now let's list out what exactly have been the kind of instances that have taken place, the growing K-terror threat, and where all it has happened. In the UK, in September, the Gandhi statue was defaced by anti-India graffiti. In March, there was pro-Khalistan protest that disrupted Dr. Jaishankar's visit. In Canada, there were attempted arson attacks at the Ontario cinema. In September, Khalistani outfit threatened siege against the consulate. This is a pattern, as I said, this is not country specific, and which is why this needs to now be addressed at the highest levels. Prime Minister Modi has done so and will continue to do so from a government point of view. July and August saw multiple shootings at Kapil Sharma's cafe, Caps Cafe. In the US, the Baptist temple was defaced with anti-India slogans. Likewise, in June as well. Australia saw similar instances where Khalistani protests disrupted Defence Minister's visit. Likewise, last year as well, they did so. They disrupted the India-Australia test. The idea and the template is very clear. It's the same template that's running country after country. Calling it out is the larger point, and that's exactly what New Delhi is doing right now. Well, viewers, Worldview this week, Bangladesh has been stuck in a spiral for some time now, and it's now clear that the downward spiral is far from over. With Mohammad Yunus's interim government now becoming Hasina 2.0, well, that's the fear that many are having. UN bodies say the regime now has many similarities with the one that the students ostensibly overthrew last year. Human Rights Watch has said that Bangladesh's interim government is increasingly using the recently amended counter-terror law to arrest alleged supporters of the deposed Awami League government. That was the exact same charge that Yunus had levelled against Sheikh Hasina. Now, in a statement that's been released UNHRW said the UN says and wants that immediately Bangladesh should seek the release of all those who've been arbitrarily detained and encourage the authorities to uphold rights and prosecute all those who've been unlawfully arrested due to political violence. Now, how is Yunus different from Sheikh Hasina is the larger question. This Anti-Terror Act was enacted in 2009, but it has been amended so many times to ensure that this very law can ensure that Awami League party members are now put behind bars for the abuses while they were in power, and that they were acting on demands from political parties and student organizations. Bangladesh Editors Council warned that the amendments to the Anti-Terror Act would curtail people's freedom of expression, limit the wide scope of freedom of the mass media, which is worrying. The larger point is, how is Muhammad Yunus any different from the government that he had overthrown, or the students had overthrown last year? All right, with that is a wrap on this edition of India Sense. Thanks so much for watching.